online. My name is Julie Spring, and I am the president of the Greater Chicago chapter of the American Harp Society. I'm gonna take my mask down because there's just two of us in here right now, and there's a few people online. So Elizabeth Yeoh-Wang is the American Harp Society concert artist for 2021 to 23. She's a very accomplished performer. She's also an amazingly smart and intellectual person that I enjoy conversing with greatly. Her degrees are from Harvard and New England Conservatory. She did a dual degree program that she's going to talk about a little bit while she's performing, like in between pieces. She did her dual degree in computer science and harp performance. So without further ado, please welcome Elizabeth.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. I want to say first, thank you to the American Harp Society for this incredible opportunity to get to travel to different chapters. And thank you to Julie and Dax for being such incredible hosts, as well as the Greater Chicago Harp chapter. A little about me, like Julie said, I study at Harvard and NEC. I'm currently living in New York City and working as a management consultant. And I've just been loving getting to travel for the Harp Society concerts for the chapters around the country. Today, my program, I'll be starting with Carnival of Venice by Félix Godefroid, who is a Belgian composer. The piece is based on a Neapolitan folk tune called O Mama Mama Cara. And one of the really interesting things about this is it's been adapted for a ton of instruments, including trumpet. This is great performance by Wynton Marsalis on YouTube that I'd recommend. And Katrin Finch also has a great harp rendition of it. And even beyond the different instrumentations that play this piece, there's actually a ton of characters within the piece that make it super interesting. So it starts with this really stately opening, and then it moves into the first variation where I sort of hear it like a gondolier going through the canals of Venice with the sort of swaying rhythm. And then there's different other variations, like one is super romantic and has harmonics and arpeggios. And then there's this one more scampish movement, which has these funky rhythms and jumps. And it kind of reminds me of when I'm distracting my sister from her work and we're just chatting, which happens a lot. And it's just such a fun piece to play. So I hope you enjoy Carnival of Venice by Félix Godefroid. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed Carnival of Venice. Up next, I'll be playing Le Jardin Mouillé by composer Jacques Delaprelle. It's based on a poem by a French poet named Henri de Renié, which is about a wet garden, which is a translation of the title, Le Jardin Mouillé. I just love this piece because Jacques Delaprelle does such a great job evoking the sounds of water and rain through the music. The piece starts with harmonic raindrops, and then there's this sort of wash of rain with glissandos. And it begins in a really tranquil way. But I think that there's even at the very beginning sort of an undercurrent or like a foreshadowing of drama. And you hear this storm and the rain building up throughout the piece before the rain abates at the end, and it ends with the sort of return of the calmer melody and textures from the beginning. I just love this piece because I think it's such a cool example of how the harp techniques can really emulate nature, and I just love what Jacques Delaprelle does in this piece. So I hope you enjoy Le Jardin Mouillé. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed Le Jardin Mouillé. Up next, in keeping with the sort of French water theme, I'll be playing On Bateau by Claude Debussy. This was also based on a poem it was by Paul Verlaine, and it tells a story of a couple on a romantic nighttime boat ride. Debussy does a beautiful job of evoking the motion of the water and being in the boat in this piece. But one thing I think that makes this piece kind of interesting is that the poem doesn't end with a sort of happy ending. The couple doesn't actually get together. And so I think that even though I think of this piece as a really tranquil, happy piece, I also feel like there's longing throughout. And it's just a really beautiful work. And this is the version that was transcribed by Renié. So I really enjoy the way she took Debussy's work and sort of interpreted it on the harp using the sounds of the harp, like harmonics, for example. So I hope you enjoy On Bateau. Thank you. Yeah, that was Debussy's On Bateau. Up next, I'll be changing it up a bit with Manuel de Falla's Spanish Dance Number 1. Actually, the reason I wanted to connect these two pieces is actually that Debussy played a role in helping de Falla sort of make his opera La Vida Breve, or The Short Life, which this piece comes from. Debussy actually helped him make it more cohesive. So I thought it was kind of interesting that two composers with completely different styles, as you'll see, actually work together and sort of learn from each other. This opera tells the romantic tragedy. It's a story where a young gypsy named Salud falls in love with an upper-class man named Paco, but she doesn't know that he's engaged. So when she finds out, she and her uncle storm the wedding, and Paco accidentally lets slip her name. And then he immediately denies it and tries to get her kicked out of the wedding. But the damage has been done. He's recognized her and also rejected her in one go. And she actually dies of heartbreak in front of him as an act of revenge. This piece is clearly filled with a lot of passion and unresolved feelings. And I think it's interesting to hear the interplay of sort of anger and passion in this work with the rhythms and the different sections of this piece. So I hope you enjoy Spanish Dance Number 1 by Manuel de Falla. Thank you. Yeah, that's one of my favorite pieces. This was actually arranged by Grandjany, who is really special to me because he's my grand teacher and great grand teacher through the harp teachers who I've studied with. So I always feel a special connection when I play his works. Up next, we'll be going back in time. I'll be playing the Barricades Mystérieuses by François Couperin. And unlike the other pieces in my program, this one, the story is actually kind of a mystery. As the name speculated that it could mean masks or veils or eyelashes, even the position of the hands when you play it. And this piece is a word, and it's restricted to the lower registers, which I actually think is one of the most beautiful parts of the harp as well. And so that's one potential interpretation of what the Barricades might be. It also has a really interesting structure. So there are 5 endings, which means you hear one of the parts 5 times. This is interesting as a listener and a player because you can sort of pick out different parts of the notes and different aspects of the piece each time you hear that one part repeat. So I just find it super interesting and rewarding to play this piece. Hope you enjoy the Barricades Mystérieuses. Thank you. Yeah, I really like that piece because also at the end that like sustained chord is almost a surprise and a relief after the continuous motion of the piece throughout. So I really liked the way Couperin wrote that. Up next, I'll be playing a piece by Liszt called Liebesträume. This piece is a pretty well-known piece. He published it in two versions in 1850, one for piano four hands and one for piano high voice, which I thought was an interesting choice to do both at once. This was transcribed for harp by Renié. There are a lot of different versions of this piece, so there's also one on piano, and I think the piano version sounds pretty different, but it's interesting to see how Renié, this incredible harpist, who I'll talk about a little more before the next piece, she sort of translated it and made it more idiomatic for the harpist. There's definitely a lot of moments in this piece, though, where I try to think about the piano and how, if I were playing the piano, how I would play this part, because it is certainly clearly written for piano. But I'm just fascinated by this sort of crossover from different instruments and sort of exploring how you can either interpret or try to emulate different instruments with the harp. So yeah, I think it's such a cool piece. The backstory for this piece is it's based on a poem. It's Love as Long as You Can. And I think that was really sort of meaningful for me because when I heard this piece, I didn't actually know the backstory when I first heard it, but I always thought that it sounded kind of like a deeper love than just romantic love. It really like transcends sort of like physical love, and I thought that it was kind of a shock to me and like a nice surprise when I read the backstory and realized that the poem, the source that inspired Liszt to write it, actually matched up so perfectly with what I heard in the music. So I hope you enjoy Liebesträume by Liszt. Thank you. Thank you so much for this incredible opportunity to be here today and share my music with you in person and virtually online. For my last piece, I chose one of my longtime favorites, Contemplation by Henriette Renié. So you've heard her name throughout this performance because she arranged two of my other pieces. And she's just this incredible harpist. She was like an icon. She was a child prodigy, and she actually wrote this piece when she was 23, close to my age. One of the best anecdotes that I always loved growing up was that when she started playing harp, she was so tiny that her dad had to fashion pedal extenders so she could change the pedals. I thought that was a really cute image. This really devoted and passionate little girl, just doing anything she could to get to play the harp. Renié was a deeply religious woman, and I think it really comes through in a lot of her music. This piece, especially the opening, always sounds really sacred and almost fundamental to me. But at the same time, something that I find so interesting about this is Contemplation has these moments of passion interwoven throughout. And I think it's sort of this interplay of the sacred and the human that makes this piece really compelling to listen and play. So I hope you enjoy Contemplation by Henriette Renié. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to the American Harp Society and the Chicago Harp Chapter for this incredible opportunity. It's so wonderful to get to share my music, so I'm so grateful. And thank you, Joy, for being
beautiful. We have the flowers for you.
Thank
So beautiful.
so
Dax is here too. Thank you, Baba. Do you want to do a little Q&A? You want to take a minute?
Yeah.
I can ask you some random questions.
Yeah,
I'm gonna drink the water. You can talk about your harp. Yeah, that works. So why don't we? You want to pull a bench over and then sit down and chill out and have some water for a minute? I did think of a couple questions while I was listening to your beautiful program. So we will start in just a minute on a little Q&A. Those of us who are online. And if you have a question, you can certainly type it in the chat too, and we can read it out. And I think that's a decent spot for you. You can just sit. Should I talk to everybody? Hi. Let me just stand off.
Oh, you should be on.
I should be on camera.
That's weird.
Harpists and benches. That's a thing,
Yeah.
right?
I use benches as my normal chairs.
As your normal chair, really?
Because if we only have a couple of chairs and we bring over the harp bench.
Right.
Yeah.
That seems fair. Most of my chairs don't have arms on them. I think that's a musician thing. Okay. So my question was, and this is mostly for people, students that are watching you. What is your process when you have a new piece of music? How do you tackle it? Especially something as complex as one of the pieces you played today.
Yeah, I think it varies based on piece. Usually the first thing I like to do is look up a recording of it because I think that seeing how different people play it, and particularly actually different instruments, because I think that sort of opens my eyes to different methods. So for the Liszt, for example, I'm obsessed with Seika Dong's recording on YouTube. And she plays it on harp, and she actually plays the Renié version. But I also listen to pianists play it a lot because I think that even though some of their ornaments are different, it helps you get a sense of how different people hear the arc of the piece, and then you can sort of figure out the way you want to do it. I guess when it comes down to practicing, though, I usually try to read through it as best as I can, but then the thing that really helps me actually learn it is breaking it down into little pieces, like all good musicians should do, and sort of figure out how can I take this problem, break it up into little pieces and tackle each one, and then how do I put them back together? Because I think the putting back together is something that takes a lot of attention too.
Yeah, sometimes it takes a long time. I remember having a teacher compare it to putting a quilt together.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
There's so many different things you have to think about and measure. I'm actually gonna move that mic a little bit closer just so we have one. Hopefully it's loud enough for everybody. I was gauging things as you played too. what types of music do you listen to when you're not studying harp music or harp stuff?
I think I typically listen to what my friends are listening to, so I think it's alternative or honestly just normal pop.
Okay.
But then honestly, I really like classical music, so I tend to listen to a lot of that just
Cool.
on my own. Yeah.
Nice. And are there any certain techniques that didn't come naturally, or they were like a challenge? It took you a while to get them, but eventually you did. And like, what did that process look like?
Yeah, that question definitely applies to Carnival of Venice. I was obsessed with this piece. I first heard it actually when an older student played it at a competition, and I was just like in awe of the piece. And then I remembered it when I was choosing out reps. So then when I was actually starting to play it, I was like, oh my gosh, because so it's really a workout. And so one of the parts that I found difficult was like the continuous trills that go on for like measures or like pages.
So much stamina.
Yeah, so I think just like sometimes just I asked my teacher, I was like, is there a trick? And she's like, you just got to do it. And so I think honestly, just acknowledging that something's hard and then trying like a little bit at a time, and then you try to sort of sustain it for longer. Sometimes I also, if something's really hard for me, I'll try to practice where it's like the first thing I do when I sit down at the harp, totally unwarmed up. And I just try to play like the hardest part. And that way I'll have like had experience with that. But for sure, that piece has techniques that are hard.
I don't think I've never done the Godefroid, but I've done the check. That one's hard too. How much do you practice, and how do you organize it when you like sit down and you have like this hour-long program? You have to like figure out what to practice and how much.
Yeah. I think this question also gets at like balancing music and school, or for me now, music and work. It definitely varies like day to day by kind of a lot. I try to practice at least an hour a day, so I always do that. And then typically I try to figure out what is the thing I'm having the hardest time with. So like for this program, I can't practice everything every day up until maybe like towards the end, then I'll practice Renié. And so I try to think like ahead of time, what are the parts that I'm finding difficult? And then those are the ones I focus on when I practice. It's kind of tempting to, at least for me, I get tempted to just run through everything, but I know that that's not going to get me where I want to get. So sometimes I'll do that to identify and kind of like triage the issues. But then I definitely just try to focus on the problem areas.
Very smart. Yeah. It's like, triaging is such a good word for it. You're like, oh. Yeah. And Elizabeth's boyfriend, can I say this? He's going into medicine. So like that is something that she's probably thinking about regularly. Okay. Some question. Thank you. How did you go about selecting these pieces, and how did you prepare for the memorization component?
Okay. Yeah. When I was choosing this program, honestly, it was such a surprise and privilege to get to be the concert artist, and I kind of just tried to think about my favorite pieces, and then also the ones that sort of were connected to other harpists, or somehow I was inspired by them. So pretty much every piece in this program has some link to someone. Like the Godefroid, like I mentioned, I was inspired by an older student. In the AHS competition, Seika, I played the Liebesträume. It was just like gorgeous, so that's why I picked that one up. Contemplation was like one of my longtime favorite pieces, and I actually played it with my audition for NEC, and so that made it like really special for me because that was how I got my incredible harp teacher, Jessica Joe.
Right. So those pieces always like you just use them for the rest of your life. Yeah. Just keep bringing them back. That's awesome. I don't think. There's no other questions on there, and I think my last one was, what was your favorite piece that you played today? But I don't know if you could pick a favorite from all of those because they're all amazing.
Yeah, I think my favorite one shifts, but I think that's nice because then that means that when I'm practicing, I'll just adapt and like whatever I'm working on more.
Yeah. Awesome. Do you have anything else you want to share? Shout outs?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I guess I didn't answer the memorization part. Oh. Yeah, I think for that, memorization is tricky for me. Usually I try to like hear it in my head. And then one thing that I heard about at an AHS conference a while back was mental practice. And that was always hard for me growing up. But I think now I'm realizing just how helpful it is, because this actually gets to the idea, like sort of find and triage the hard parts. Because if you can play the piece and actually feel it in your fingers, in your mind, then that means that you know it. But sometimes when I'm mental practicing, I realize that I kind of skate over a part and I'm like singing it in my head, but I don't feel it in my hands. And then when I go to practice it, I know that's the part I need to focus on. And then I think that helps a lot with memorization.
That's like such a good insight of like, oh yeah, I really can't put my fingers around that section in my head.
Yeah.
That's a really good one.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I guess I wanted to shout out you for hosting me. Thank you so much, Julie. She's been an amazing host, and it's been so fun to do with you and Dax. Yeah.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah. And then also I want to say thank you to my harp teachers. Growing up, I studied with Karen Lindquist in New York City, and then in Boston, I studied with Jessica Joel, and it was such a privilege to work with both of them. And they're both my links to Grandjany. That was when I mentioned that he was my great grand teacher.
Yeah.
So yeah, they've been incredible, and thank you to my family. I think they might be tuning in as well on this live stream. So yeah, thank you for listening and supporting.
Awesome. Yay, teachers, yay, family.
Yeah.
They are like so important. Thank you for your support and for tuning in and watching this, whether you've watched it live with us or if you're watching it like in the future. And just a shout out, we're going to have a student recital at Lion Healy in 2 weeks on April 23rd at 10 a.m. So if you've signed up for that, we can't wait to see you. If you're coming to cheer those students on, we also can't wait to see you. And thank you so much again to Elizabeth. You sounded beautiful. What a wonderful program.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks so much.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day. Okay.